Today was supposed to be the easy day. Supposed to be about 8 miles. Gain the ridge, and then make my way down to a lake to camp. There was way more snow than I thought there would be. I guess I should have known better. Figured since this was a lower elevation mountain range, maybe it wouldn't have as much snow. But there's a bunch. Tomorrow at some point I'll be getting onto more of the exposed ridges where the forest recedes and it's just rock basically. So at that point it's either going to get better or worse. This was an idea that I kind of came up with before I really knew what the mountains were like. It sounded cool, so I thought I'd do it. I've gotten to the point where hiking established trails isn't that much of a challenge anymore. They can be a good physical challenge, but without that extra element of navigation, the mental challenge isn't quite there. So I decided to create my own routes. I have mapped out a series of high routes in a bunch of Montana's different island mountain ranges. These are relatively small, isolated ranges of pretty big mountains. I've made it a goal to hike across the range and stay up as high as possible. So that means I'll be sticking to the ridge lines as much as I can. These routes are completely untested. All I did was look at some topographical maps and Google Earth and kind of figured out what looked like the best way to move across these ranges while staying up high. But there is still a ton of unknown with these routes. Chances are I'll have to deviate and figure out ways around terrain hazards and stuff like that. And that's what I really enjoy about being out in the wilderness. You never really know for sure what's out here. And the idea is that we confront that fear of the unknown. The more we do that, the more adaptable we become, and the more resilient we become. I'm at about 6,100 feet now, and it looks like I'm going to be in a cloud the rest of the day. I'm so grateful that the snow is hard enough to hold my weight. This would be a totally different story if I was breaking through and post-holing through all of these snow patches. I do have my snowshoes, but the snow is so inconsistent. I'd either end up walking on rocks with my snowshoes a bunch or taking them on and off like 100 times. I think whatever you're doing, it helps to find little things like that to appreciate. At least for me, it keeps me in a good mood. If I'm in a bad mood out here, then every single little challenge just puts me in an even worse mood. That's when I start to make mistakes, and then everything takes longer. And obviously it's just not very enjoyable. That's the difference between a positive mindset and a negative mindset. Alright, it's getting kind of late. It's about 9 o'clock. It's gonna get dark pretty soon. And now I'm at my first steep snow slope. I just slipped too. From about right there, slipped all the way down to here. Luckily I was able to stop myself in the snow or else I would have kept going. So this is no place to stop. Definitely can't set up camp here on this really steep slope. I don't really want to go back, so I'm gonna see if I can get across this. I have to do it eventually anyway. And then I'm gonna inch my way across this pretty steep slope and hopefully not slip. That would be good. That was kind of sketchy, but pretty short-lived. I made it to a flat spot here. I'm still a couple miles short of where I was hoping to camp at a lake, but it's getting dark. No sense in pushing it and trying to make it there. So, looks like this is home for tonight. And the rain is coming down a little bit harder now, so a dry tent is starting to sound pretty good. Doing these high routes is about doing something that's just outside my comfort zone. And as I get farther into these, I'll figure out exactly how far outside my comfort zone they are. There's definitely a limit. I won't do something if it's too far outside that. But the goal is to always be doing things that are just the right amount outside of your comfort zone, and then that zone will keep expanding and more things will become comfortable. Now I'm nice and warm and cozy in the tent. Got some warm food. Listening to the sound of the rain on the tent. That's pretty peaceful. It's about 35 degrees and raining right now. I'm having a hard time getting out of the tent. This is about the worst weather to hike in. I think I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. Maybe it'll stop. Starting out this morning was pretty rough. It was hard to get out of the tent. I was already cold. Then I had to put on wet clothes. Oh yeah. That feels great. Pack everything up in the rain and hike for about a mile across snow. Back up on the ridgeline. There's no snow up here, and there's a decent trail. I'm taking full strides and moving at normal speed. It's not much, but compared to what I've been doing, this is pretty great. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Ups and downs. There are so many highs and lows out here, and they happen so quickly. When I'm in a high, I've learned not to expect it to last too long. At least then when I hit a low, I'm not too disappointed or surprised. Off in the distance over there, that's probably the farthest I've seen so far in this whole hike. So that's a good sign. It means the weather is starting to clear up just a little bit. Look at that, there are mountains out here. I'm not just on some island in the sky. So I am at the pass where my trail ends. And I've got to admit that I've been feeling kind of a sense of dread for this moment, basically since I started the hike. I have no evidence of anybody actually doing this. So as far as I know, I'm the first one to try this route across the whole Cabinet Range. I think I'll be off trail for the next couple days, sticking to the ridgeline up high. And basically at any point there could be some sort of terrain feature that is just impossible. And I'll have to figure out what to do at that point. And if and when I do reach those points, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. But But I think what I'm mostly worried about is snow. Those are scary. It's so easy to slip, and all it takes is one slip and then you're going down the whole mountain. The good thing is the weather just keeps getting better. It's kind of continuously been clearing up all day. So after a little break here, I'm gonna give it a try. We'll see what happens. The scree hiking is interesting because it's really tedious work, but it requires full attention. You have to gauge every single rock because you never know which ones are going to be loose. It's kind of a nice mindset to be in because there's no other distractions in my brain. All that I'm thinking about is what's in front of me. But if you set a good steady pace, it feels kind of like a meditation. It's kind of cool. There's the pass that I was just down on. Made it to the top of the first named peak. As I was getting close, I was starting to feel a little bit confident actually. I was thinking this actually wasn't so bad. Then I made it up here and saw what awaited for me on the other side. That is intimidating. Wow. The plan is to go up and over all of those peaks basically. That one right there is the Lost Horse Mountain and Twin Peaks. I'm not going to go over that one. I'm going to be staying on the left, following the ridge. And there's a whole bunch more hidden behind there. I'm starting to realize how crazy of a plan this is. Made it down off of Kearney Peak, which feels like a small victory. I think that's how it's going to be for the rest of the hike. Every single ascent and descent is unknown. So if I complete one, it's going to feel like a little win. Now the next challenge is to go up that peak. That one's not even named. And the one behind it over there, that's called Flat Top Mountain. I'm hoping to at least get there by the end of the day. But we'll see. Well, here it is. This is one of the things that I was afraid of. Pretty steep, snow-covered slope with a long way to go if I start sliding. But actually, now that I'm here and looking at it, it doesn't look as bad as my imagination. Put the snowshoes on, get the ice axe out, and I should be able to cross it all right. I've got about an hour and a half left of daylight, and there's some kind of dark clouds moving in. This is decision time. Either I have to quit and find camp now, or I have to get over the mountain before it gets dark. I'm gonna get a little bit closer and kind of keep an eye on these clouds, trying to figure out what they're doing. I don't think it looks too bad, so I might go for it. This is always the best part coming up. That's the top of the ridge. Wow. Incredible. I think this is going to be camp for tonight. Didn't quite get up and over Flat Top Mountain, but the sun's going down real soon. And it looks like a pretty steep descent off the mountain, and I really don't want to do that in the dark. This isn't ideal. It's probably going to be fairly windy up here tonight, but you can't beat this spot in terms of views. Sometimes I kind of irrationally place views over everything else. That's important to me. And this spot is awesome. Cold. Wow. Coming down off a Flat Top Mountain now, and even though I'm going to be walking down a scree slope and then up a scree slope, it's actually reassuring just to be able to see where I'm going. I'm up on Lost Horse Peak now. There's Twin Peaks. That's the one that I'm not going to. Gonna be following this ridgeline all the way. That's Ojibwe Peak. And then that big one behind it is Elephant Peak. That one looks intimidating. I'm supposed to be going up that left ridgeline right there, and that looks totally impossible. So that's going to be a problem for later today. This hike isn't really about doing something that's challenging but possible. I guess it's more about doing something that might be impossible. You don't know if you could do them until you actually try. So I guess that's what I'm doing out here. I am kind of expanding my perception of what's possible. And if I run into a brick wall, or in this case maybe a 100-foot cliff or something, then I'll know where my limits are. There is still so much snow melting from these high peaks over the ridge, and look over into a new basin. There's just like a thunder of water falling down it. It was looking like today was going to be a beautiful day, but over on the horizon it looks a little bit like rain. So I'm going down this slope then up that slope, and that's Ojibwe Peak right there. But in order to get down that, I could either go really slow, put my snowshoes on and kind of inch my way down there, or I could just slide the whole thing. I've never actually done that before, but I've got the ice axe, and that's kind of the tool you need to slide down this snow like this. It's called glissading, and I'm going to give it a try. So this whole thing right here is a enormous cornice. It's hanging over the edge of the cliff. You can see it's starting to break off already there. Eventually this whole thing is going to fall down the mountain. But I'm not going to stand here too long. I think I'm going to go down this side. Now that was way more fun than down climbing in the snow. A lot faster too. And it looks like that's the rain cloud that I was seeing earlier. It has passed over. Doesn't look like anything else is coming this way. So that's a good sign. Geocache. Sweet. Guess I should add my entry. Up on Ojibwe now, looking over at Elephant Peak. There's some lakes right there. They're totally frozen over. That's actually where I was supposed to camp at last night. So I'm way behind schedule. And then I'm supposed to climb that ridge to get up to Elephant Peak. That looks pretty not doable. We'll see what it's like on the backside, but that looks like a super thin knife edge. So that might be the first thing that I have to kind of figure out a way and navigate around it. We'll see what it's like when I get there. That does not look fun, but it's the only way. So far for most of my water I've been melting snow, but melting snow burns up a lot of fuel and I'm almost out for my stove already. I don't want to go down to a stream or anything to get water, so if I'm going to melt snow I need to build a fire. I'm not too certain about those parts coming up. Looks pretty narrow. That is a very sketchy knife edge ridge. Looks like it might be possible if I'm really slow and careful. But I also can't see the whole thing from here, so I might just end up at a cliff and have to turn around anyway. So I'm not really sure what to do here. I'm gonna have to think about this for a minute. I think I have to take the safer route here and go all the way down. That way I can bypass that ridge and then I can meet back up with it at the pass that the ridge kind of comes down to. So that means I get to glissade all the way down this hill. That'll be kind of fun. This is harder than it looks, especially when there's cliffs below me. Oh, that's scary. That's really steep. Fuck, that's way too steep. It's gonna take forever. Man, if I just had my snowboard, this would be so easy. That was terrifying. There's no other way to put that. I just spent the last hour and a half in fear of my life, basically. I thought that was gonna be a nice, easy butt slide all the way down, but that was not even close to what it was. From up on the ridge, I couldn't see how many obstacles there were. There's a bunch of cliffs and crevasses, and in order to avoid those, I had to go onto a really steep slope that I did not feel comfortable sliding down. So I had to inch my way down that very slowly. It was just nerve-wracking the entire way. Then I got to the cliffs. Had to do some rock climbing to get down those. Rock climbing on wet, slippery rocks. And then I had to span one of the big crevasses down at the bottom. And then the last butt slide down to this point, that wasn't too bad. That was kind of fun. I'm pretty freaked out by what I just did. My plan right now is to go down there, that little pond, get off the snow, hang out on some warm grass and regroup. For some reason I assumed that it would be easy to get down to the valley where that pond is. But I'm just getting myself into even more trouble. It's either super thick brush or ice bridges over rivers. I think I'll just take my break here. I need a break. Need to eat something. And I just can't fight through this brush for another hour to get there. I sort of came to terms with this hike being way too far outside my comfort zone. Yesterday and today, I've been more scared than I have on pretty much any other hike that I've ever done. And to have that 2 days in a row, I can be pretty certain that it's only going to get worse going ahead. So I think I have to admit that this is too far outside my skill level to continue on. The whole point of doing these high routes, I think, was to find where my limits are. I haven't really done a hike where I felt like I was at my limit and I couldn't go any farther. And I think I found that with this hike. I think I could keep going physically, but mentally I kind of hit a wall and I really don't want to go back up to that ridge. So the plan now, I'm down in this beautiful valley. I have the whole place to myself, so I'm just going to spend the night here. There is a trail in the valley somewhere, so I'll find that, take it back to the road, and then just head back to my car. Hopefully I can find a hitchhike or something to get me close to my car, or else it's going to be like a 25-mile road walk. But I've got time. I was supposed to be out here for another 3 more days. This does kind of feel like a defeat, and I'm kind of disappointed. But when you're out here, and especially when you're alone, and I think it's a really good thing to push your limits, but you have to know when to turn around too. And I'm kind of at the point where I think I need to turn around.